Hello everyone. By popular demand, here is my recipe, here's my method for making sourdough bread. There's a few things you're going to need, which I'm going to show you, and I'll talk you through the process. And in order to do so, I'll need to move this camera so it's not pointing at me, it's pointing at the stuff. So the things you're going to need are some kind of a large Tupperware container to make the dough in and then to let it prove. I mean, you don't have to have a Tupperware container, you need something that you can put, can cover. You're going to need some sourdough starter. This isn't showing you how to make this, but there's plenty of places you can look online to see how to make this. I might make another video showing you the process. So that's my sourdough starter in there. I've got some strong white bread flour. I've got some brown strong flour, whatever it's called. I've got parchment paper, which you're going to need. You're going to need a bowl, like something like this, in order to put your dough into this after it's proofed for the first time, because eventually, I forgot this, wait a minute, I'm going to cook it in this casserole. Where's the lid gone? Where's the lid? Where's the lid? Well, look, you don't need to see the lid necessarily now, but I'm going to cook it in this casserole later on, so I'm going to transfer it from here into here, but that'll all become clear in the fullness of time, right? So for the moment, we're also going to need some scales. For the moment, let's concentrate on making the dough. It's pretty much a no-knead dough. I am going to fold it once, but again, I'll show you that in a minute. So the first thing to start off with is flour. I need some salt as well, I don't know if I mentioned salt. We're going to go for 420 grams of flour, so I'm going to have half and half. So I'm going to have 210 grams of my brown, whole wheat, grain, whatever it's called, flour. Alright, and then same amount of my strong white bread flour. You can make bread with just plain flour, this type of bread anyway, but this is strong white bread flour. So we're going to top that up to 420 grams, like so. There we go. So that's 420 grams in total, goes in there like that. Bang wallop. This, I've already drawn a line on this, but it's basically going to measure out 9 fluid ounces of water. I'm going to use quite warm water from the kettle, sort of body temperature type of water from the kettle. I'm over here doing it now at the kettle, that's why you can't see me. There we go. Alright. I'm going to keep that a second because I'm going to also put in 2 teaspoons of salt. I've been using rock salt recently, which works very well. It's got good flavour. This is just your bulk standard, table salt from Sainsbury's. Other brands are available. Right, now my sourdough, which is straight out of the fridge. Right, I haven't attempted to do anything with it, warm it up in any way, shape or form. And I'm going to get myself 8 fluid ounces of this in here. See, it's pretty thick and gloopy. It's usually about that much. Oh, that's grams. I don't know what that means. There they go, 8 fluid ounces. That's 8 fluid ounces exactly of that. I'll top that up in a minute so that I've always got the same amount. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my water and I'm going to put it in with the sourdough, which seems a bit odd, doesn't it? Because it's all bubbly and delicious. And now you're just going to make it into a fluid, but it means that it mixes much better, really. So a balloon whisk, mix that all together, blah, 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 like that. And that goes in there, like that. And with my spoon, mix it all together, kind of gather it together. It's quite an odd consistency. So you can get it, you're not kneading it, you're just mixing it essentially to a rough, kind of shaggy mixture, like that. Try and get all the stuff off the sides, if you can, like so. You see that? You see what's happening there? It's all kind of come together right now, as the Beatles once said. And I'm going to leave that for half an hour while it kind of does its thing. And then I'm going to fold it, so I'll show you how to do that in a minute. I'm going to feed my sourdough. Ah, the lid's just fallen off, that's good. Put a couple of those in. A bit like that. Like that, like that. Oops. Oh, bit of water, cold water. And there, nothing particularly precise, just trying to keep it the same fairly thick porridgey consistency, like this. Stop dripping. All right, and then that'll go back in the fridge till next time, where it will live very happily in kind of state of suspended animation, although it does keep on fermenting, just very slowly. And in half an hour's time, as I say, I'll put the lid on that in a minute, I'll show you how to do the folding. Okay, this is half an hour later. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what I mean by folding this rough dough. So I'm just going to wet my hand a little bit, like that, and then you're going to grab it hold of it. It's quite sort of stretchy. Just grab it at the corners and stretch it. You see that? And kind of fold it over itself, and you'll see that it changes character quite quickly. You might have to shake it to stretch it a bit. And it's going to kind of take on this, well, it looks a bit more like dough actually. Sorry, the camera went a bit wonky. So yeah, so you're kind of stretching it out. Maybe try to gather some of the bits around the edges still, it's not essential. But until it gets this, until it turns into this much more doughy like thing. And then once you're there, it's just a case of proving it. So I would normally prove this overnight, but because it's about 10 o'clock now, I'm going to do it through the day. I'm going to stick it in my airing cupboard, leave it for the day, and then show you what happens later on tonight. Well, it's now 7.5 hours later, and this has been sat in the airing cupboard, which is quite warm, say, all afternoon. And so what we should find is that it has done this. So it's kind of turned into this big bubbly floopy thing. which is exactly what we want it to do. Kind of doubled in size, I guess. So the next part of the whole thing is, well, for a start, what we're going to do is here's the elusive lid. I'm going to take this, I'm going to stick it in the oven, and I'm going to put the oven on as hot as it will go. And my oven goes up to about just 220 degrees, fan oven. We'll put that on in the background. So get the oven up to 220 degrees. And here, now we're going to find out what the purpose of this thing is. What's happened to my parchment paper? Oh, it's there. So greaseproof paper, parchment paper, I don't know what you call it. Tear off enough to basically line your bowl, right? Line it as best you can. It's not, it's a bit fiddly. Because what we want to try and do is we want to try and get this into here. We want to retain as much of the floofy, bubbly fluffiness as we possibly can. I've been gifted this rather splendid palette knife thing recently, but anything will do. Sometimes I just use a wooden spoon. But I might use my wooden spoon this time. It's not the wooden spoon I was looking for. Oh, here it is. Right, so I've got a kind of flat wooden spoon here. And we can try and get this in here, like I say, retaining as much of that air as we can, because you don't want to knock it completely out, because then you'll have nothing left in your loaf. There we are, in she goes, like so. Very good, very good. Get a bit of water in there. And I'm just going to kind of smooth that over, like that. And leave that. And when, let's see how that sits in there now. So when it comes to the oven being up to temperature, I'll show you the next bit. Well, it's been about half an hour. And my oven is now at 220 degrees. And not much has changed with this. The thing about getting a decent spring out of your loaf is there's two things, right? Moisture, so you want to get the top of it it's probably skinned a bit, and you want to try and get that as moist as you can. So get a bit of water on there if you can, somehow or other. I've actually got like a spritzery thing that I use, so because if it's skinned over and it's not moist on the top, it's like basically you need it to expand like a balloon, and it won't do that if the skin's got too isn't lost its elasticity. So want a bit of water on there. And the other thing we want to do, we can stick a bit of flour on, but it's mostly for aesthetic reasons, to be honest. The other thing you want to do is try to slice some lines into it. So you want I'm using a serrated knife. You want a sharp knife, and be bold, right? Make a couple of dig a couple of holes in it. It'll look a bit of a mess, but it'll do the trick. Now, castor oil comes out the oven. You want to do this as quickly as you can, retain as much heat as you can, Don't burn yourself. And don't blame me if you do. That goes in there, like that, right? Woo! Very, very hot. Lid goes back on like that. Hurrah! Ow! Slight burn. And then that's going to go back in the oven for 40 minutes. And then we'll have a great unveiling once that's done. That noise is the alarm on the oven, which says 40 minutes is up. So it's time for, well, let's see what we got. Here we go, here we go, here we go. All very, very hot. There you go, one sourdough loaf of bread. Ooh, hot. There you have it. Nice. Not too bad. Nice little sourdough loaf of bread. See how it's that, even though trying to kind of score it is, you know, fairly imprecise, it just helps it to spring. So there you have it. Hopefully that's helpful. There are lots of other ways of doing it. You could use the old baking tray, in which case you'll have to cook it in something like this, in a Dutch oven. You could prove it in a banneton full of flour. It gives it a nice shape, and then cook it in the banneton. But basically, yeah, that's basically the idea. So let me know if you've got any questions. I hope that works for you. See you all later.